Okay, I think I might be live now. Woohoo. Yeah, okay. Woohoo. Sorry, guys. Hello. Welcome to the party of our first ever pipeline specific webinar. So very excited for however many or few people are here today. So happy New Year. It's our first webinar of the year. And I believe it's our first ever live YouTube webinar. Yes, long time no see, babe. Okay, so in today's discussion, we are going to be reviewing 3 different parts. We're going to be discussing pipeline management and how we use it at Mongoose Media. And the webinar today is, as always, informal, but ideally informative, and something that we're going to be doing every Friday, at least throughout the first quarter of 2026. We had done this 5 weeks in a row in 2025 and are going to continue doing this for the next 13 weeks in 2026. Oh, we're live on YouTube. Okay, cool. Haha. Trying something new. So we're evolving and getting this better with each outcome. So in today's, we're going to be covering pipeline data and how we leverage pipeline data for sales marketing automations, and marketing campaigns. Part 1, we're going to be talking about our pipeline definition. So I'm going to show you behind the scenes of what we do in our different pipelines, because we do have 8 of them. I know it's quite a lot, but, oh, you know what? It's using the wrong microphone. Okay, this should sound better. Hopefully it is sounding better now. Let me know in the comments if it made a difference for you or not. If it didn't, otherwise it's saying it's using my phone, which is my camera. So here's that. Okay, so part 1, we're going to be doing pipeline definitions. Just going to talk about how we define our various stages and the 8 different pipelines that we use. Then we're going to shift into some of the pipeline activity, talking about a high-level overview of what we have been doing for our various pipelines, and then completing it out with part 3, which we're calling about pipeline path and lead scoring. The entire purpose of all of our pipeline stuff isn't just to document who and where our leads are, but to generate a list of higher qualified leads so we can prioritize our attention. So if that sounds good, we're going to get right into it. Okay, so in pipeline, there's a lot of different things. So we use high level. Ours is a white labeled version called Dologale. And in pipelines, what I found really struggling in the beginning, so a CRM, a customer relationship management system that uses the pipelines, are going to have many different statuses, stages, and groupings of language together when you're trying to figure out, okay, what's inside of the pipeline. So there's what we put it as, there's a pipeline, which is like where you're moving your contact between each stage of a pipeline, and then you have a status to the pipeline themselves. So what that might look like is a pipeline. You could have a sales pipeline, you could have a marketing pipeline, you could have a press pipeline, you could have a referral pipeline, an HR pipeline, just a different set of stages that a person will progress. And that pipeline, they're entering into a pipeline because of some sort of trigger. And then there's an exit to the pipeline. Either they've lost, they've been abandoned, or we've won them. So each pipeline has a very specific trigger entry, and then has a very specific end result, which is either winning, losing, or abandoning. When you win, you've hit the desired outcome. So if it's a sales, you've closed. You've got a signed agreement. You've got 16 digits on a credit card. If it's an HR pipeline, it might be that the offer was extended, right? If it's a press pipeline, that press piece could have been published. The reason why I'm saying we have different pipelines is because you don't want to have those in your sales in the same pipeline as those in your press, so that you can see like these different activities that you're tracking alongside progression to what they're trying to achieve. So let me know like in the comments and stuff that you're seeing, if this is making sense, how and why we have different pipelines. And then I'll show you specifically what our 8 different pipelines are. But what I want to make sure is clear is we have a pipeline, which is a very specific entry point. So a trigger that gets someone into that pipeline. If it's sales, for us, they booked a discovery call. If it's a marketing pipeline, they've signed up for a webinar. If it's a press pipeline, we found an activity that we can submit for, whether it's on Quoted or Podcast Match or an inbound type of thing. There's some sort of trigger, whether it's manual or automatic, that starts a contact with an opportunity inside of that pipeline. So just inside of high level, that's the nomenclature that they use. So an opportunity is like the card that's attached to the contact. So you have a contact, which is the person, the opportunity, which is the event. So it could be a press opportunity, a sales opportunity that lives in a pipeline, such as a sales opportunity lives in the sales pipeline, a press opportunity lives in the press pipeline. And then inside of those pipelines, so pipeline's the parent, and then we have a person that's attached to an opportunity. So that's a card. They're going to progress through stages. So the trigger that enters them in, they might be in the stage of like attempting to contact. So in the sales pipeline, we have attempting to contact. You have lead qualification, you have discovery call, you have different stages. So stages are what you're progressing your contact and that opportunity through. So I'm using this as a side because it looks almost like a Trello board where you have, here's your pipeline. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And as you progress them along the stages, each stage is getting them closer and closer to the outcome. So if you start at the left and your outcome at the end is a stage right before they win, the further you progress them alongside your pipeline or down your pipeline, the higher likelihood that they're going to convert to the ultimate action. Now, you can abandon or you can lose them and have different reasons why. But again, when you have a stage, the first stage is like potentially attempting to contact, submitting the quote, posting the job description, or like receiving an application from the job that was already posted. So you have stage 1, and then stage 2 is the next step. Like, right, if it was submitting a job application, pipeline stage 2 might be, you might have a resume reviewer. You might have someone automatically reviewing whether or not that resume is a good fit. Okay, I'll keep going. So then if we're using the resume pipeline, then you have interview. So then you can see all the candidates where an interview was sent. Like, again, you can have this be manually or you can have this be like automatically done. So as it's progressing through, you might submit 200 applicants maybe offered an interview, but only 10 of them actually book a time. So then next stage might be, okay, you submitted to 500, 10 booked a time. So now you have booked interviews. And then you can move them if like they pass interview 1, offered interview 2. So it just shows you progression towards the end result you're trying to achieve. And the stages are the steps along the pipeline that define progression. And then we have a term called status. So the status is something that we use as like almost like a micro stage. So in our pipeline, and I can share my screen. And see, in our pipeline of definitions, we have 8 different statuses. So this is from our sales pipeline, right? So someone who is a shadow lead or a suspect is in the stage of 0. If they're a subscriber, they're in status 1. If they're an MQL, they're status 2. And then we have sub-statuses, right? Where they had a conversation or no conversation. Then we have 3 is sales qualified leads, 4 is prospects, 5 is customers, 6 is vendors and referrals, 7 relationships, 8 disqualified. So these are the different statuses that progress along the different stages and that are inside of the various pipelines. So the way that we can show this a little bit differently, thank you, Heather, for setting up a mock account that we can do it. Here you can see that we have these 8 different pipelines. So I'm going to show you, this is inside of high level, ours is Dole Gale. Inside, here are our different stages. So I'm clicking on the new sales pipeline. So this is our new sales pipeline. And then these are the 6 different stages of someone who could live inside of the pipeline. So first stage, attempting to contact, discovery call, strategy call, proposal and quote, negotiation and commitment, future interest. If I go to our, let's go to new sales. So this is a template one. So if say I create an opportunity, I'm going to make this contact name is Mickey Mouse. What? Oh, I have to add Mickey Mouse. Say Mickey at houseofmouse.never. So we have this type, I'm just going to create this as an example contact. So this contact is Mickey Mouse on this opportunity that sits inside of this pipeline new sales at the stage attempting to contact. Now, that if I have a discovery call with Mickey Mouse, I move him here. If we then move to a strategy call, if we're negotiating, committing, this further pipeline progression, how I'm going from left to right, is showing higher likelihood of success to them getting to the ultimate action for new sales or signed contract. But if you notice when I'm moving these around, we have 3 options on the bottom: lost, abandoned, and won. Winning is the ultimate goal that we want. But if you do lost, you can give a reason for why you lost them, and then you can make those. But I'm just going to go to advanced filters, delete that as open. So he's still on here, but Mickey Mouse is marked as lost. So I'm just going to open it up so that he's back on side of our pipeline data for moving it around. So that, just in a nutshell, is our stages: strategy call, proposal, quote. Inside of the pipeline, this is new sales, but here are the other pipelines that we have: customers, a marketing pipeline, a new sales pipeline, podcast and press pipeline, relationship building, speaking gigs, support tickets, vendors, and referrals. So those are the 8 different pipelines we have at Mongoose Media. And then just showing specifically inside of new sales what those different stages are. And then going back to our pipeline, these are then the statuses. The status is really about the contact, not about the opportunity. So inside of our pipeline, we're specifically talking about Mickey Mouse, and we'll say the opportunity name is Mickey Mouse wants a Facebook ads audit, right? So that's the opportunity. But Mickey Mouse himself is an individual, in theory, as a person who has an opportunity for a Facebook ads opportunity, a Facebook ads.
I found some web results. I can show them if you ask again from your iPhone.
No, thank you. I don't know if you guys could hear Siri getting really loud, but that was funny. Okay. So when we're looking back at the different pipelines, so these are our statuses. If Mickey Mouse, for example, as a contact, was a marketing qualified lead, he's opted in to hear what we have to say. He's consumed some of our content, but he has not yet booked a discovery call. I'm glad, Sammy. Okay, you acknowledge that you could hear it. Yeah, that was like, she was loud. Not even like a little bit, but that was loud, Siri. Okay, shoot. I was checking. I have the Mac Mini Pod, and I was like, oh my gosh, did I activate her again? So these statuses let us know about the contact. And so if someone has booked a discovery call, oh, Kevin, if someone has booked a discovery call, then their status changes automatically to a 3 SQL. Then these are like child statuses. Are they active or inactive? But this is just more enhancement so that we know about the individual, so that, say, you can have some automations such as like Mickey Mouse. If he's booked a discovery call, it will make his status automatic. Like, we can have automations that say, okay, this is at least a 3 QL. Now, why does that matter? 3 QLs and these different statuses come into play for when we send our emails. So when we're doing our marketing automations or our sales automations, based off of the status, which is a custom field inside of Joel Gale for the contact, we will then choose the 3 emails we send a week right now: a value in advance, a sales push, and a marketing push. Those don't go to everybody. They go to specific segments. And the way that I have some segmentation is based off of the status that we have in the pipeline, which is shadow leads, opt-ins, MQLs. Okay, Tanya is saying that the screen I'm sharing is not clear but blurry. Okay, let's see if it's maybe because I'm not zoomed in well enough. Let me know if that was clear. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I defer to the people in the chat to let me know if it's getting clear to be read. I know because it's like sharing that with Webinar Jam, which is a tool we're using, there might be some ambiguity to it, but I can definitely make sure we're sharing. Like, the biggest though that we're saying is like 0 shadow leads, 1 opt-ins is a status, 2 MQLs is a status, 3 SQLs, 4 prospects, 5 customers, 6 vendors, 7 relationships, and 8 disqualified. Those are the butt heads we don't want to. If you can't read the details, that's like saying who is a disqualified lead. We can get into that a bit more deeper of those different statuses, because I know that in this time we're going to definitely be specific about all of the child statuses in our 1 opt-ins. Zooming in does help with clarity. Okay, thanks, Heather. So we're going to get specifics into what I call the A through Z of our opt-ins. And then if someone wants to have more details on the other status stages or the statuses within our pipeline, I can zoom in, or we can add that to the next webinar for sure. But zooming in helps a little bit. I'll zoom in even more then. Let's see if this helps a lot of it. Oh yeah, I think this is even clearer. So in the A to Z of our opt-ins and subscribers of who they are, you'll see that so one is the subscriber status, but we have A, B, C, and Z. So that's why here we're shifting now to the A through Z of our pipeline status, specifically for our one opt-ins, which we call subscribers, in quite detail. So the reason why I have one opt-ins, a lot of people will say these are leads because we know who they are. But I don't think they're absolutely leads until they tell us they want to hear what we have to sell. If they're not interested in what we have to sell, they're a subscriber. To me, if you want to hear what you have to say, awesome. You've opted in to hear more. If you want to know what we have to sell, okay, you're a lead. And then when I go to 3, a sales qualified lead is someone I want to sell to. So for me, if I don't want to sell to you, or if I don't know if you want to be sold to, you're just an opt-in and a subscriber. All right, awesome. I'm glad that helped. Thank you for sharing that. It was not as clear. Appreciate it. Okay, so in this, A is the best, Z is the worst. So this is going from 1Z to 1C, 1B to 1A. So this is just progressing down the status. Like we had the pipeline, you went left to right of progressing towards your end goal. The way we have it written here is Z's are the worst, A's are the best. What this means is that of these, if this is the status, right, they're one opt-in, then the child status is the letter. That's how we're using it internally. So everyone that comes in is coming in as a 1B butthead. So that means if you've signed up for something, if you signed up for Yes Please campaign, if you're on our contact list, if you have opted in to hear what we have to say in any capacity, you are defaulted to the status of 1B. 1 being the status of opt-ins, B being the child status, because you're in inactive contact and you're essentially in a holding pattern. We have absolutely no proof of life yet. As we're going to talk about in our email triage webinar, we go really deep into the importance of proof of life. But that proof of life has impact into the status of the contact. So you come in as a butthead, you're in a holding pattern because we don't know anything about you. If you reply or click and show some sort of engagement, we then upgrade your status from 1B to 1A, that you're active, until you do something that tells us you're actually a marketing qualified lead. So say you signed in just on a contact form, or you signed up for our mongoosemedia.us/yes-please. So if you're doing the yes-please, it's because you're like, yes, please tell me more about your marketing. And when we do that, we send you our email triage series. And if you click or reply, you'll then be upgraded from 1B to 1A. So these are 1A's active. These are the best subscribers that you have. These are people that are engaging with your emails. They've shown you proof of life. It's not a bot. Could be a competitor. Could be an employee. We don't know that. There's things that you can do for better pipeline mitigation. But we have 1A proof of life subscribers, leads, because this is what a lot of people think are leads. But these are even the better because we know that they're humans. So when we have them in 1A, what we say is in our marketing pipeline. So if you remember, we have different pipelines. We also have a marketing pipeline. So someone in marketing pipeline, 1A, 2B, and 2C. So that ties back into if someone becomes a proof of life subscriber, then the trigger is they get an opportunity created in the marketing pipeline. So the sales pipeline is if they have a discovery call and we find out if we want to sell to them. In the marketing pipeline, what we're trying to get them to do is to get a conversation in some capacity. So if that's why we have pipeline 2, marketing to 1A, if we get a proof of life. When we have someone go through email triage, where we're sending them potentially 27 emails, but it's really actually 3, we're just resending them quite a bit. If they do nothing, they drop off, they become a 1Z. We have no idea They failed to do anything in our email pipeline. They went from 1B butthead all the way to the bottom of our list, 1Z, and became a zombie. We don't want anything to do with these people. They have no pulse. They could have been a bot. And if they were a bot, they weren't even at least a click happy bot. They're dead to us. And they go into that 1Z place because then I am not going to be investing in paid ads, optimizing for them, or in paid marketing sales push to the extent that I will be more focused on other segments. So we have 1Z. Those are the people that leave the holding pattern and become a zombie if they do no engagement, versus if they did some engagement, then they leave the holding pattern and become 1A. You might notice that one other child status in our ones is the couldn't bother. So these are our no-shows and insincere leads, like Z zombies, C couldn't bother, B buttheads, A active. We tried to use an alliteration. Those that couldn't be bothered, these are the no-show and insincere leads. So they bailed on a webinar, they didn't even watch the replay, or they became listed on a no-show. So if you're a marketing qualified lead, you opted to hear what we have to sell. You signed up for a discovery call. So then your status as a contact went from maybe 1B, 1Z, like you could have been a zombie and you signed up for a discovery call. Amazing. You being a discovery call gets you into the 2. However, if you no-showed that discovery call, then we downgrade your status from being a marketing qualified lead to being an opt-in couldn't bother, a 1C, because you didn't show. Or if you registered for a webinar like this one, and then you didn't watch the webinar, nor did you watch a replay of it, you show that you've lacked sincerity in being a lead. Therefore, you're no longer a lead. You're just a couldn't be bothered with subscriber. So as you can see, the A, B, C, and Z, these are statuses of contact that have significantly different weight into the likelihood of them becoming something within our investment into them, right? We know that like you're supposed to call every lead within 60 seconds. We know that like you're like going to have the most success with people that you're actively talking to. But if we're just going to bombard and send stuff, it's like farting in the woods and no one's around to smell it. You know, that's not the example. That's just what came as a tree falls and no one hears it. That's what it was. So with the different statuses, that just allows us, as we're looking at where do we want to invest time, who do we want to send emails to, what are we trying to build relationships, what can we extract out of the pipeline, right? Like who are we going to be smiling and dialing with? This allows us to put an order of hierarchy of who is the one that matters the most. Okay, so that's essentially like our pipeline definitions, like the foundational items behind it, and that you can see that there's an opportunity to really start building automations behind this. I've got some of them over here in our subscribers. Let me see. So in our one opt-in, so we can see here, like when someone signs into our ecosystem and are net new, we have an automation that can automatically assign the pipeline status to 1B buttheads. If they've clicked on an email triage and their current pipeline status is 1B, assign them to 1A. One thing on the automation that's important to this is because what if someone clicks on an email triage, but they've already been statused as like a 5 customer? That someone could just be someone that is re-signing up, and we don't want to downgrade a customer back to a 1 opt-in. So that's why we have ands as part of that automation. If they complete email triage 1 and never clicked a reply, just as we said, we assign that status to 1Z zombie. Then if we have someone that signs up into Dologale and they're not net new to our CRM, if they are 1A active, what comes really powerful here is we know that they've signed up. Say they signed up for Yes Please, and now they've just signed up for our Meta Ads Calculator. They also sign up for Meta Ads Calculator and they've already shown themselves as an active 1A status. Then they sign up for another lead generating asset. Then what we can do is we have a Slack push notification into our pro account. We create an opportunity in the relationship pipeline because this person is showing that they have some activity with us. And that relationship pipeline, which I'll show back to here, in that relationship pipeline where we're doing relationship building, we can then follow them on socials, engage with them on socials, and get them to engage back with us. So when we see that they're showing us activity in email, we can then take that activity and transfer it to another channel, which is social media. Because if I can get them to be active on email and we can get them to be active on social, we can get them to be active about us. So in that, if they sign up and they're not net new, we push a notification so that we announce, hey, like this person's like here for it. We can create an opportunity in the relationship pipeline so the social media team can start engaging with them. Our social setter can see if there's an opportunity for us to potentially get a discovery call. And then there was one more ad. It looks like we didn't finish what that was. So maybe it wasn't as important, or we'll figure it out. I'm going to say add TBD work in progress. I don't remember what the other one is. But that's why like these are informal but informative, because this is a constantly growing mechanism. But what I just want to make sure is like we're all super aligned on our pipelines that we have, which for us, we have 8. That we understand that the different, so here are the 8 pipelines. We have 8 different statuses, which is 0 through 8. So technically that's 9, isn't it? Where I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Wherever I can find Zoom. I don't know. Oh, here we go. So we have 0 through 8. Those are the statuses. And then inside each of the pipelines, they have a variety of stages, like with new sales, attempting to contact through future interest. Okay. That's everything from the foundational side. Now I want to switch gears to part 2, where we're going to start talking about some pipeline activity. And so for those that have been following along with a lot of the stuff that we've been doing on pipelines, since this has been a growing drawio for quite some time, there's a lot that keeps updating, and I'm excited for us to continue the updates. But some of the things I want to be mindful of is, depending on when you last watched this, 8 is probably a lot smaller number than what you had seen before. I think we had 14 at the highest. But we've definitely been cleaning that up quite a bit. And with the new sales and relationship pipelines, I'm going to get more specific into the different roles that our team have with those two pipelines. So in the new sales, like we did with the Mickey Mouse and attempting to contact discovery call, strategy call, I'm going to go back into our Mickey Mouse. So say we have here, this says add us an appointment. We don't have a calendar that's set up. So, oh, dang, because I don't have a calendar set up in this one, it's not going to have it. But say he had an appointment and there was an attached one. If I'm just click on him as a contact in this appointment, because I don't have a calendar I can attach it to. But there is a chance for us to change here as confirmed, unconfirmed. And then once that event happens, then we can confirm it as no showed. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Sorry. So inside of the contact, here's like, I got to the contacts by clicking on, if we go from the opportunities, and I'm looking at Mickey Mouse and I click on the name, it opens up their contact field. And then there's this calendar appointments. So if there was an appointment, I can't do it because there's no attached calendar, which is super okay. But it'd be like testing. I don't think it'll let me because it doesn't have an attached calendar. But you can see here, confirmed or unconfirmed. So that's something that like allows us to do a lot of triggers if we want to. But once this is made and the event has happened, then you have the status that can be shown, no showed, all that stuff. That's related to the appointment itself. And so inside of our pipeline for new sales, a discovery call, when we mark if they showed or didn't show, if you recall, it triggers different opportunities in our pipeline. So going back, I'm just going to zoom in. So if someone was a couldn't bother and they no showed, that one change downgrades them from being a marketing qualified lead to being a simple subscriber. And so those are different things that we can use within the pipeline. This allows us to also add value. So as we progress through, something that's really important is synchronizing value of the different pipeline stages back into our marketing efforts. And so what I mean by that is we can say that a new lead to someone in our ecosystem could be worth $0, $400, whatever that type of phase is. And then maybe a discovery call, let's say this is worth $1, this is worth 100, this is worth 1,000, this is worth 10,000. And you can have that level of monetary value associated to that opportunity. And when you push that data back into Meta, it has more data. Before you spend $1, you need to make sure that the data and the destination that you're sending your ads to aligns with the outcomes you actually want. Such that if your goal is to get a booked call, but the book call's ultimate goal is to get a closed contract, the progression of these steps from your CRM can have value associated to it. That incremental value gives greater weight to Meta to understand the higher quality of that lead. So what we have in our pipeline path, this is our perfect with Mongoose Media and custom conversions. This is our standard events and custom conversions in Meta that help us know where someone is. So in this, we say that anyone who's a page view, like that's a standard event that you add to Meta to the pages, like to every page. And then view content. Oh, actually, view content. I don't know why that's there. Should both be here. Sorry. This is where it's like making sure it's clean. Yeah, because these fall under complete registrations. And then similarly, I need to move this. And there. Okay. Actually, let's do this. Sorry, I'm going to be annoying. Okay. So page view is on every single page of your website. View content is a standard event. That's why it's in capital V, capital C, and it's not highlighted. That means those are standard events inside of Meta's ecosystem. So the standard events we just pulled directly from developers.facebook.com. And so here are the 17 different events that you can do standards, and then you can increase additional object properties. But in this view content, you put as a page event on pages like sales landing pages, product display pages, service pages, contact pages, important pages to your website, where you're saying someone who visits this page is worth more money to me than someone who just had a page view because they viewed important content. And then complete registration, that's what we use when someone becomes a lead, or for us, they become the status of one opt-in. So we use complete registration of the standard events. I'll go back to here because I can show you where complete registration is. Here, it's when a registration form is completed. A person submits a completed subscription or sign-up form. It's very similar to lead. When a sign-up is completed, a person person clicks on pricing. I distinguish lead being someone who's interested in what I have to sell, and complete registration is someone that's interested in subscribing to hear more. And what I like about this is we have for complete registration, if you go down to these object properties, we have a status that is used with the complete registration. Boolean means it's A or B. It's binary, yes or no, true or false, as a way to enhance it. So when we go back to this pipeline path, if someone signs up, remember how they come into as a 1B holding pattern automatically? That for us means that they were complete registration and status of the registration was actually false. If they become 1A, then we have a status change to be true with complete registration because they've shown activity, such as replied or clicked on that email triage. So I'm telling Meta that lead is worth not $0 to me, but $3. So they're active. So buttheads worth $0, active worth $3. Hopefully that's making sense as we do our path, because again, we can tell Meta in a location, hey, the further they progress down this pipeline, they mean more to us. But Meta's not going to know the hierarchy unless you assign hierarchy to it, which you can do with the CRM pixel, or if you assign a dollar amount, right? So the more dollars you associate to that lead, the higher value. They're like, oh, okay, this lead or complete registrant with a true status is worth $3. Okay, she's super happy to pay $3 for that completed registration with a status of true all day long. Right. So then we have, 1A active. Oh, I might have to move these over. We will. Yep. Oh, no. Okay. There we go. So in that, so we have 1A active. So complete registration. If they, let's do this. So I just have, so it was probably set up right the first time and I just got overcomplicated. So when they become 1A active, then they have a complete registration is true. And then the standard event or standard events complete registration, and then a custom conversion is 1A active. Then in our pipeline, then we have 2C consumed. So when we go to pipeline explained in marketing, consumed is they signed up or are ready to consume more, such as they signed up for a live webinar or masterclass. They were on the website for 5 minutes or more in one single session in 24 hours. So to me, I'm saying someone who's active, they're consuming stuff, they're worth $7 to me. And when I say they're worth $7 to me, I'm saying that back to Meta to get me more people, because I want more $7 people than I want $0 people. But what's even better than those two C's, I have another custom conversion. So this is just taking custom conversion means we are not using a standard event that Meta has already defined from the billions and billions of data points. We're not using their already predetermined standard events. We're choosing our own. And that's why they're custom conversions, so custom to us. They don't have any bearing. Meta knows that someone who does submit application, add to wish list, search, purchase, schedule, start trial, these are standard events, so they can have assumptions based off of that data. So the data are telling them a lot more back than if we're just doing custom conversions. So in going back to pipeline explain, after 2B, we have 2C, we have 2B, so they consumed something. So this is like those that attended a webinar, those that watched a certain amount of a VSL. We can say, hey, if Meta in the marketing pipeline, right? If we go back to marketing pipeline, if we go to here, anyone who's been 2B or 2C, we are then telling Meta someone in that pipeline is worth $7 to us, or $15 if they become blooming. So last on that, like blooming, so they've consumed our content. They've consumable and consumed. Is it making sense? Like someone who's consumed, they want to consume versus someone who actually did consume, they accessed it. So if we go back to our pipeline path, then we have a lead. A lead to me is worth $40. So someone that's like actually signing up for a discovery call. Now our discovery call, if we go to go.mongoose media /booking. I'm going to open that up. Oh, got to be capitals. Didn't mean to be like yelling. So say someone gets to this page, when they're on here, this is our booking process. This is 2-step, right? So if I say, okay, that's not what I want to do, but say that's the 555-522-222. It's going to say it's a fake one. If we set up, I knew that was going to, okay, so 847-346-6598. Okay. Say we're setting up that first step makes them a lead, but they haven't booked time on the calendar yet, right? Because they haven't booked time on the calendar, they're still just a lead. If they do book time on the calendar, then I want to assign them the standard event of schedule. So schedule, a person who books an appointment or visits one of your locations, versus a lead, which is sign up is complete. That's where in this pipeline path, if someone completed the first half, like I just showed you, and got to this page, they're just a lead. They haven't actually scheduled anything. They're attempting to. They're attempting to, but they haven't completed it yet. So in this first page, right? So if they never actually book, because maybe when they're looking at this timeline, they're like, this time doesn't make sense. 1:15 won't work for me. I need to figure out something else. If that doesn't work, then, and they abandon it, they stay as just a lead. If they do schedule it though, amazing. Then they get the schedule standard event. And again, they're worth $400 to me. Therefore, I'm telling Meta, this is worth $400 to me. Then we have 2 more custom conversions. Those custom conversions match what we have in our sales pipeline, right? So after the strategy call, we have, after the schedule, we have a strategy call, and then we have a quote. These, like, this is in our pipeline. I'm trying to make this as short as possible because when it pumps back into Meta ads, you can see it in the performance marketing dashboard. Like you can see it as a in your custom columns. And so for me, less is more. Hence, instead of saying strategy call, proposal and quote, we're just using strategy and quote. So if they do a strategy call, if they get a quote, if then they do those two things in our pipeline, they progress along, we're telling Meta these are worth $400 and $800 respectively, or $1,200. The last thing that we have in our pipeline, which is where we have submit application. So what we're saying is if someone has gotten to the negotiation and commitment stage, we're equating that to submitting an application. Again, on this, because we're using capital S and capital A, that's our indication that it's related to a standard event. And if we go to submit application, because that's the coding you put into it, it's when a person applies for a product, service, or program you offer. So a person applies for a credit card, educational program, or job. The way that we're using it is that if someone has started the negotiation and commitment stage, it's like they've submitted an application. They've gotten the quote. They know what we're requesting to charge. They want us to do their Facebook ads for them. Okay, awesome. And then we're going to set up all of their tracking conversions. They've received it. And at this point, they're just now telling us what they want to include or which tier they want to engage with. Hence, in our pipeline path, we're saying submit application. This last one before getting to a purchase. So this is everything. Everything. Before they do a purchase, if we go back to this pipeline, if we don't hit one, because they're not ready, if they hit one, whatever the dollar amount is of whatever they sign as a contract, then gets fed back in. But if they don't hit one and they move to future interest, we are then using this add to wish list. So we weren't rejected. We didn't choose to abandon. We didn't lose it. They're just future interest. So therefore, we are using the add to wish list. Product is added to their wish list as a way to us have a different standard event, which allows us to track and see inside of Meta what our marketing efforts are yielding inside of our CRM. And then this allows us to send back to Meta a dollar amount that someone being here isn't bad. It's not the end goal, but if they're future interest, it means that they're not necessarily gone yet, but we're not marking them off. So this is our everything from our sales and marketing pipeline combined with custom conversions and sending back values to Meta. And it's really important that these values are known and like you map it out. So if you are running this, if you're running this for your company and you don't know the value of each stage in your pipeline, that's something you need to ask your CMO, or that's something you need to be super dialed into. Because if all the efforts that you're making for marketing and all the advertising you're doing for your products or services, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm super happy paying a $65 NCAC or a $40 blended CPA. But what about all those micro stages in between? Those micro stages can help paint a better picture and can help more efficiency in your optimization when you have them defined. More often than not, we find that brands don't know all these stages. I mean, there's 1,000 things to know at once, but the CMO, your marketing manager, your directors of marketing for sure, like you need to know what these are worth so that when you're investing with your marketing into these different people, you're not going for a bunch of complete registrations who are just subscriber opt-ins. We don't want these buttheads and zombies. No, not at all. We need to tell Meta, like if the data you're sending back into Meta isn't optimized for what you actually want, you're going to get a lot of guessing. And before you spend $1, you need to make sure your data is set up correctly. And then ideally, you have to also make sure that the destination you're taking them to makes sense. So that's our pipeline path explained from the positive side. Thus, you'll see right here is the negative. If they are status as one zombie, couldn't be bothered, dialogue disqualified, or 8 disqualified, not only am I sending positive data to Meta of who I want, I'm sending negative dollar value to Meta of who I do not want. Because data in means garbage in, garbage out. So the more data you send back, the better your information will be to Meta. So they have better optimizations. People are like, oh my gosh, Meta's so bad. It's not good enough for me. Likely it's because the data you are sending it is hot garbage. So if you want Meta to know who you want, it's important that you tell Meta what it's worth. That's not working. Okay. So here I have one zombie. If you become a zombie, you didn't show anything. I'm saying Meta, you got me a complete registration. They're no longer worth 0. They showed me no activity. They're worth negative $20 to me. If someone no-showed to a call, if they had booked a call, right? They actually booked a call, they would have had potentially $440 of value sent to Meta about like, yeah, this person's interested. They became a lead, $40 plus scheduled a call. They're worth another $400. That's 440 combined, depending on if they got these other amounts. But if they couldn't be bothered, they didn't show up, I'm saying negative $200. I need to offset. I don't want to have inflated dollar values associated to our contacts if they're not doing what I actually want. So we're going to have both positive and negative data flow back into our Meta system, leveraging the automations inside of our CRM and their activity. Then we have 2 de-dialogued and 8 disqualified. So those are just other statuses in the pipeline. I know we've got 11 minutes left. So on that, I just want to make sure that like here we have negative custom conversions and our positive data flow so that we can tell Meta again what we want. If you are running a company or you're overseeing marketing and you don't know the value of each stage, that's like one of the first things you need to do. This stuff means so much. You can see here we have perfect no custom conversions. This would just be if you're only doing standard events. If you're watching this video and you're like, okay, I don't know, you don't have to use submit application the way we use if someone like accepts the quote and they're starting the discussions. You don't have to use complete registration the way we do it. You have the ability to pick and choose, but this is how we do it. And this is the progression that we would do. A perfect scenario without any marketing or sales custom conversions from those pipelines. Here, I just have it if they're procrastinators or we're adding add to wish list, you'll see that our perfect doesn't have future interest. And then we have never giving up $1. So those are our folks that like lie, but then never actually did anything. But what I just want to show you is it's so important for us to have defined dollar amounts so that we can tell Meta what each person is actually worth based off of what they're doing in our CRM. If you're just going to optimize for a lead or you're just going to optimize for a purchase, you're going to get a bunch of frogs before you're going to find a prince who's actually willing to buy or purchase. So these are the relationships, the marketing stages, and the sales stages that are being sent back in. The last piece that I want to just go over now is discussing more about these pipeline paths as it relates to lead scoring. So with CAPI, Conversions API for Meta, and these custom correlations, we have now explained how you can have better Meta ads optimization by synchronizing consumer relationship management activity, so CRM activity, and their value using CAPI and custom conversions. So these are pipeline values that are game-changing, not just for your optimization, but for you as leading strategy. You need to know, because if you're generating all of these schedules and your cost per schedule is, $800, but the owner is like, whoa, that's outside of the realm of possibility, that's going to be a really hard conversation. So instead of having those conversations now, it's really good to make sure you get dialed in on those values today that you can then adjust to later. But the last thing you want is, hey, you said 400 was good and I'm getting them for 250. And then they're like, well, I need them to be 200. It's like, hold on. This is what we wanted to do before. So what I like that we're doing now for 2026 is we're setting up a sheet that we want everyone to sign when they're a new client that says, here's my true north, because you can choose one of 4. Do you want more sales? Do you want more customers? Do you want more revenue? Do you want more efficiency or better retention? But if you're going after like growing, it's either like new customers, so more sales, more customers, so more revenue, more sales, more customers, or more efficiency. Unless you're like, I really need to go for better retention. Those are the only things. And so we're having our clients say like, yes, this is our North Star for the next 6 months. Here's what our numbers are. And we all come to the table to agree, because the last thing we want is a moving goalpost. And I think like knowing these numbers are so important so that you can be mindful of what you're investing with your marketing and not just say, oh, Meta doesn't work for me. Well, hold on. What have you defined? What are you giving back to Meta? And then like the next piece is, what is the destination you're sending them to after Meta? Because if you're saying, hey, I want you to come, let's go back to like, come book a call, right? And you're taking them to a page that doesn't say what they're going to get on the discovery call. you don't have any like preference to like, hey, let me give you a heads up of what's coming. If you don't have any of this stuff, this might not help someone want to book a call with you. So you have to be clear about what data you're sending back to Meta and what's the destination experience like before you spend $1. And so going through some of these pipeline data is like, this data is so mission critical that it's so critical for a CMO to know, and it's ideal for the marketing manager and other people working on it. So if you're the graphic designer and you're like, okay, I know that I am making ads to do book calls for this client. If you don't know what the result needs to be, you don't know what you're trying to beat. You have to know what the results need to be so you know what you need to beat. And while this is constantly growing, I'm hoping that this is giving more clarity into the intersection of marketing and sales, but also the intersection of the contacts being treated as individuals versus being discussed to and all, because not all leads are created equal. And if we don't send this data back and we don't define what this data is worth, Meta is going to assume everything is good, when the reality is you might have a dumpster fire of garbage. Okay. The last two things that I had set up is we talked about how it's really important that we pipe this data into for lead qualification for Meta, and that the negative values are an absolute. I think a lot of people forget that we focus on, oh, what this is good, this is good, this is good, but equally what is bad, because bad usually has a higher volume. If you don't say what's bad, you're going to get more assuming that everything else is then good. If you don't tell Meta what's bad, they assume it's all good. It's like no news is good news. Meta saying that no news back into the Meta ad system is good news because it's not bad. It's great. I'm assuming you're going to tell me if it's bad, or you're going to tell me if it's great. Otherwise, it's just good. But it's not all good. Usually it's a lot more of like flaming garbage until you send the right data back in. Okay, so now the last piece of this specifically, is lead scoring at a high level. So while this is numeric value back to Meta for what the contact is worth, there's additional activity as it relates to lead scoring. So this tab will be the final one we'll go over in today's call. So in this, like, we have our webinar activity. So anyone that's signed up here, awesome. If you registered for this, you will have a lead score. A lead score is a custom field on the contact. So I don't think we have this in our use case, but no, we can for future times. Where's the contact? Come on. Go to, no, that's not what I want to do. Come on. Let me make my screen a little bigger so it's not as annoying. Oh no. Calendars, contacts. Okay, sorry, I was like, I'm going to find it. So here we have Mickey Mouse. We'll have a custom field like this one. These are native to it, but you'll have a custom field that is related to its score. So we can have a lead score, and it's actually a native system built within High Level. And with lead scoring, we have points associated to it. So this is essentially like a lead scoreboard of who's better. So we've told Meta based off of activity, and if someone's in a pipeline, like people are working the pipelines, they know who's active. But there's other people that could be inside of your CRM that are subscribers. They're one opt-ins, and they've never made it to the sales qualified lead, but they're active. Like they're signing up for stuff, they're engaging in things. So these are just point systems that we can do internally for us to understand who in our CRM is doing the most things that we want to know. So just as you had before with the values, going back to Meta that's negative, so too do we have it here in lead scoring. So everything that's in red is a place where we are subtracting points. So your lead score and the contact value are two different numbers. The contact value that we had shown in the pipeline path, this is just data we're sending back to Meta that says this is what someone in this stage is worth to us. But in lead scoring, this is what's showing the contact's activity is worth. So that when your sales team is looking at like, okay, who should I reach out to first? Who can I start connecting with? Who can I start building a relationship with? We can then build a scoreboard of who's the hottest, who's the most engaged lead. And we can start putting our time. Oh, it's okay, Heather, I just saw that. And we can start putting our time and attention to the leads that are the most engaged. So if someone signs up for a webinar activity, awesome. They're going to get 5 points. Because if someone signs up for anything into our ecosystem, they're going to start with a first time sign up of 1 point. If they clicked on the email, the link in the email, no matter what, they can click on every link. They can if they can click on a link in email today, a link in email tomorrow, each time that they do a click, it's going to be 2 points. And every time they reply to an email, it's worth 5 points. So that we can start to see that for our opportunities, these folks, you could be 1A active, but say we have 700 people that are active. Well, how do we know who's more important? We can start looking at these points. Of the 700 people in 1A active, who has more than 100 points? Who has more than 400 points? Because then what you can do is by having all these points, we can then say if someone hits a threshold of 400 points, notify the sales team, notify the social team. Now we can start engaging. So again, we can take their CRM activity of what they're doing in our pipelines, in our emails, in our marketing, and bring that to do actions with it. So we're becoming aware of their activity, putting them into a scoreboard. So if they signed up for a webinar, 5 points. If they watched any of the replay, or 10 points, right? If they watched 20 minutes of the replay, they get more. If they attended it live and are not a vendor or disqualified leads, they're going to get 30 points. This is, remember, we can use conditions to make sure that we are optimizing for what we actually want and clearing stuff up. I bet the next time we go over this, we'll have even more that's on this, but this is just showing you that just like there's a dollar amount that we send back to Meta, we need to have a lead score number into our systems so we know where people show up besides those that are in our pipeline. So this is the goal of lead scoring, is to have a list of opportunity, like a list of contacts that we can then potentially nurture into an opportunity in a pipeline. So that's everything that I wanted to cover. I know that's a lot. For most of you, I bet you 80% of it's new. Covering lots of pieces. We went over pipeline definitions. So we talked about statuses versus stages versus pipelines, and why leads by themselves are just horseshit, garbage. Like, it doesn't make sense. We need to add a lot more clarity to it. I discussed our 8 different pipelines, the parents and their definitions. We went a brief overview of the child statuses that matter. And then I showed you the A through Z of our opt-in subscribers in detail with each child status: 1A active, 1B buttheads, 1C couldn't bother, 1Z zombies, and then the dollar value behind them. So going back to this, nope, not what I wanted. Here, we just even have it out here. If a zombie worth negative 20, couldn't be bothered, worth negative 200. Buttheads worth $0, active worth $3. Then part 2, we talked about pipeline activity, where we went over our various pipelines and detailed stages for new customers and relationships. And then we finished it all up with pipeline paths and lead scoring, so that the data that goes back in both for our team and for our programmatic AI behind the marketing ad retrieval engines know that not all folks are created equal. Oof, okay, that was a lot. Hopefully it was informative. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, happy Friday! Bye, friends.